Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's virtual Lunch and Learn for the WayUp Summer Series. I am so excited for who we have today. Benno Dorer, the CEO at Clorox. This is going to be one of the most fun interviews I've ever done, I think. And I'm sure you guys have so many questions. So Benno, thank you so much again for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Liz, and thanks to all of you, wherever you may be, for participating. Look forward to this.
Awesome. So I just want to say first, on behalf of pretty much everyone I know, thank you, because the last 5 months, I've had one thing that has gotten me through it, and it's this. And so I'm really, really grateful. And I've always been grateful to your company for all the products, because it's more than just, Clorox wipes, although that for me has been my true lifesaver. So thank you very much for what your company does.
Thank you. It takes a village, and we have almost 9,000 dedicated and passionate employees, and I will be happy to pass on your thanks to them.
Awesome. Great. And just so everyone knows, he just mentioned they've got a lot of employees, but they're also still hiring throughout the year. And so if you are someone who's interested in working at Clorox, we actually have a link that we'll be posting a couple times in the chat. Feel free to use that link to check out their open roles. They've recently posted a bunch of great jobs and internships for next summer and jobs, full-time jobs. So please do check them out. All right. Benno, I got 1,000,001 questions, but I also know the audience has questions because I'm seeing them coming in. So let's just start with you in college. Like, who was Benno in college? What were you like? Tell us about yourself.
It's been a while, but the way I remember myself, first of all, I think everybody's incredibly social in college and enjoys social life, and that was definitely no exception. The second thing I remember, actually, I was a night owl. It's very different from how I am today. Today I get up super early and I also go to bed early. But at the time I did my very best work very late at night, and I slept ideally until noon. And then I was mostly engaged, as I remember, in extracurricular activities. So I saw, the classes as something that had to be done, and I certainly did that. But most of my energy went to a national students organization. I studied in Germany, in 2 universities in Germany, that had the goal of bridging theory and practice and connecting students with companies and with different fields in industry. And I was a leader in that organization, and a lot of my passion went there. So those are the things that I remember. But it was a good time, but it was far less exciting than some of the stories that I hear about from students today.
Amazing. So, and it is interesting, I keep hearing from some of the speakers we've had that they were much more excited about the extracurriculars than their classes. So clearly there's a theme going on here.
Yeah.
So you went into marketing after college. So talk about like how you made that decision. How did you even know what marketing was? Tell us about it.
Yeah. How I knew about marketing clearly came from that organization. It was called Marketing Between Theory and Practice. And that was the whole idea, to get students acquainted. And I think it's incredibly important for students to figure out what marketing is and what the different types of marketing are, because there's so many. For me, I first started off studying economics, actually, and I will tell you, I didn't necessarily enjoy it that much because it was so theoretical. And then I had the opportunity to listen to a lecture from a university, a professor in Germany from a different university, and he was the authority in consumer behavior, field of consumer behavior. And consumer behavior really is about influencing people at various levels, knowing that most of the decisions that we make as humans aren't rational. They're subconscious, they're driven by emotions and by all kinds of different things, and consumer behavior tries to influence that. And I listened to that speech and I was hooked. So I packed my bags, I changed university, and I switched to study business administration with a major in marketing to study with that professor, a professor by the name of Krober Reel. And that changed my life, I would say. Just that 1 hour changed my life. And, so I knew I wanted to do marketing because for me, the fundamental idea of figuring out how to influence people and how to get people, if I look at my today's job, where there's 5, 6, 7, 8 different brands at shelf, and people on average take 2, 3 seconds to make a decision how to get them to buy your product versus the competitive product, I find incredibly fascinating.
Yeah.
So that's what got me into marketing, on top of the fact that it's fast paced and you get to work with a lot of people. And as I think about the CPG industry, which I represent, it's also often the path to general management. And that's something I've been very interested in. And I knew that CPG marketing would get me there.
Awesome. So I'm curious, you talked about CPG marketing, you talked a little bit like about, what you see visually on a shelf at a store, but as you know, within Clorox alone, there's so many other kinds of marketing roles within CPG, and then there's also other kinds of marketing roles outside of CPG. So for the marketing students who are on here, and I think there's a lot of them, how should marketing students think about the type of marketing they want to go into right after college, whether it be digital, brand, analytics, or even just the industry?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, and you're raising a good point, that Liz, if I'd be a student today or somebody who's entering the job market today and is interested in marketing, the first thing I'd think about is, do I want to be a specialist or a generalist? Because there's so many different roles. If you want to be a specialist, if you think about our company, for instance, we have specialists in digital, we have specialists in consumer insights, we have specialists in analytics, in consumer communication. So these are specialized fields, and often people choose that field because they're particularly passionate about it. So if you're one of the people who's specializing in one of these fields and is really interested in, for instance, becoming an expert in analytics, I'd pick a company that is good at that and for whom this is really valuable. And I'd pursue that specialized career. And if you want to be a generalist, often associated with brand marketing in our shop, people who manage brands at a very early age, they learn a lot of different things. I always say they're a mile wide and 2, 3 inches deep. So you have to be knowledgeable about a lot of different things. Then, brand management, classic brand management, which often is represented in CPG, is a really, really good place to be because you learn a little bit of everything. So I would say it starts there. And then, other things that, of course, I would say are important is, first of all, is the company marketing and consumer driven, or is it more technology driven? There are a lot of companies that are very technology driven, where marketing is a little bit of an afterthought, where technology is fixed, the product is fixed, and where engineers are running the shop, really. And then what marketers have to do is take that and market it as best as they can to consumers or to industrial or company customers. That could be motivating. For me, what was more motivating was to be at a company that's really consumer centric, and where, as a marketer, I actually had a chance to influence what the product would look like and how we go to market, and I had a much broader area of responsibility. So I would really, whatever you choose, whatever you feel you choose, I would pick a company where marketing is really at the center and that is really, really consumer centric. And then lastly, I'd often tell people that the single most important thing, I think, especially for the first company that you pick, is a company that does a lot of investments in training and development, in creating a culture of promoting from within, because the first 3 years are really, really, really about learning as much as you can and developing as much as you can. So don't choose a marketing job, but choose a company that really puts a lot of effort into learning and development.
Awesome. So a lot of people on this call are probably pretty ambitious. Like, they're spending their lunch hour, learning. So instead of watching Netflix or whatever else they could be doing. So I'm curious, for those who are super ambitious and have their eyes on future CMO of Clorox job, would you say, like, does that mean, really try to get as many experiences as possible? Or if you think about your own prior jobs where you were in very senior GM roles or marketing roles, would you say that it was really helpful that you had a whole lot of experiences, or was there one particular experience that was most helpful?
As I look at our leadership team, there are no two similar paths, and that's what's fascinating, and I love that. So I don't think there's a one size fits all at all. And that's great. Otherwise, that would be boring, right?
Sure.
And if you think about what all of the leaders in our company, and I think in any company, do is, they forge their own path. And I think it's really important for everybody to realize that you can be yourself and you have to believe in things. And if you want to be a leader, that doesn't mean you follow others in their paths and you imitate what others do, but you really create your own path and you do something that you believe in. One thing that I would say is true, though, is that any professional career is about lifelong learning. So, understanding that a career is a learning journey, getting as many different experiences as you can, to your point, Liz, always not just trying to do the best job that you can, but always try to learn and think about, is it worthy of doing another job that is similar to the one that I have right now, or is it maybe better to rise in a company and doing something completely different? I've worked. I will have been in this business for 30 years. At the end of the year, I've only worked for 2 companies, but I have had a tremendous amount of different experiences. I've worked in 4 different countries. I've worked and traveled all around the world. I had a sales assignment, an innovation assignment. I had a big brand assignment. I had an assignment of a business that needed to be turned around. New products, lots of different things. And I've tried to learn as much as possible, because at some point in your career, people will stop telling you what to do. And then it's really helpful if you've learned a lot of things, if you've developed your own judgment, if you've developed your own points of view, and if you generally know where to go, even in crises like the one that we're facing now, where there's no data at all, where it really matters to have experience, to have intuition, to have honed all of that through learning. So whatever you do, whatever your path is, try to learn along the way as best as you can.
I love that. That's awesome. And by the way, just as a side note, I worked abroad in India for a year, and not only did I learn a lot, I also just had a blast because you get to explore a whole new country. So I
Exactly.
totally agree.
And it sort of changes you as a person. I don't know what you felt about your time in India, but you really become a different person in a good way. And you develop character, and you find out a lot of things about yourself. So new experiences, whether it's a different country or a different city or whatever you choose, are incredibly valuable.
I agree. I'm curious, you talked a little bit about, this is quite different, but you talked about how diverse the backgrounds were on your leadership team and throughout the company. And so I'm curious your thoughts on what role students or interns and companies should play when it comes to creating this like inclusive and diverse work culture. Because as you know, we've been working with Clorox, and I've been blown away by how diverse and seemingly inclusive the company does seem to be. But how did you do that? Like, what did Clorox do, and what role should companies play?
Yeah, we're quite proud. In our leadership team, our company leadership team, 57% are women or minorities.
Wow.
And in our board, it's 33%. So, and we typically show up in all the lists of like Forbes magazine, best companies for diverse leaders. So we are being recognized as being a company that does well, even though, as everybody, we can do more. But the biggest thing is that inclusion and diversity isn't just the right thing to do, which it absolutely is. But for a company like ours, it's a necessity. It's the right thing for business. If you think about Clorox, we sell brands to 9 out of 10 households in the United States. So we sell products to everybody. And that means that our employee base has to represent the consumer base. We have to be as diverse as our consumer base is, because the core of our business is to understand consumers, have consumer empathy, as we call it, and then understand what consumers need, and then create insights from that, and then develop those insights into products, into marketing campaigns and sales campaigns. It doesn't work if we're all the same. We are making better decisions because we have a diverse group around the table. and we create an inclusive culture. It's absolutely important for a company like ours to do that. For students, what we're asking students is to be themselves, to bring their whole self to work. In fact, from hiring processes, we've banned the word fit. He's or she's a good fit. What's often meant by that is that, well, she or he's like us, and we want people that are different from us. Everybody needs to have the ability to be their whole self, to bring their full self to work, and mind you, be collaborative, but not try to fit in, but to be themselves, because we want debate. We want different ideas. Ideas come from everywhere in our company. So it is really, really a necessity for us. And that's why, as a company, we put a lot of training, we put a lot of development into our culture, the way we hire, the way we promote, the way we mentor. We have a lot of programs in place. That starts with me. I always say that as a CEO, I am the chief culture officer because it's the CEO who sets the tone. And I definitely have a huge interest in setting the tone for us to be the most inclusive and diverse company that we can be. And while we're pretty good, we got to keep moving the needle and keep working at it, and we do.
Awesome. We have so many good questions coming in, and please, guys, keep them coming. So let me ask two more. One, I'm like selfishly I need to know, and then one for the supply chain majors watching, because we do have a bunch of them as well. But okay, selfishly, I need to know, as a CEO, I cannot imagine running a company that is literally the savior, that all these people are saying, I don't know what I would do without you right now, and that everyone pretty much is using. So what has it been like to run a company during COVID-19 that is so front and center, and how has Clorox been even responding to this extreme increase in demand?
Well, tiring on one end, but incredibly motivating, because we're making an incredible difference to so many people. Not just with our disinfecting products, but as people stay home and they don't eat out as much, they need our Hidden Valley Ranch, they need our Kingsford charcoal, they produce more trash, so they need our Glad trash bags. We have vitamins, minerals, and supplements, so products that help strengthen your immune system are really in demand. So, it makes me incredibly proud because we're making such a difference. And I see that from all our people. We're doing pulse survey with our employees. They're just incredibly engaged and willing to give more because they know that consumers are really, really, really relying on us right now. So everybody's giving a little extra, and that's incredibly rewarding, I will say. How we've responded. So it's you showed me a box of wipes. They're still a little short because demand is incredible for these products. So we've really been focusing on two things. First of all, keep our people safe. We're doing great at that. And then to make as many products as we can, in particular in the disinfecting space. And we have simplified our product lineup. If we have fewer, those of you in supply chain and manufacturing, if we have fewer changeovers from product to product, we can run our lines faster. And our lines run incredibly fast right now, so we're able to make more. We have also accessed third parties who are making products on our behalf. And we have already invested millions of dollars in increasing our capacity midterm, building new manufacturing lines so we can make more in the future, because we think that consumer engagement with disinfecting products is not just going to be much higher now, but people will be worried about their personal safety for a while, especially also as they get out at some point again, whether that's offices or hotels or airplanes. So we are making as much as we can. We're making more every day, and that's been our single-minded focus.
Awesome. My last question, because we've got many supply chain majors on, and then I'm going to switch over to the audience questions. I guess similar questions to what I asked before for marketing majors. How should supply chain majors think about what path they should take? Because there's obviously a whole lot of paths for people who do study supply chain.
Yeah, it's a great time to be in supply chain, not just because, right now in COVID, a lot of companies are investing in restructuring and relying upon supply chain. and Clorox certainly is one of them, like I just described, but also because a lot of supply chains are being transformed with help of digital technology. So we are designing a wholly different supply chain for our company as we speak, and it's really an amazing time to be part of that. I think in supply chain, one thing that's similar to what we talked about in marketing, supply chain is so many different fields. It's not just manufacturing, but it's distribution and logistics, and it's purchasing and strategy and planning, and the list goes on. And what's really critical, I think, if you're in supply chain, is to pick a company that has rotational programs. And we're one of those companies. We call it the Supply Chain Leadership Development Program. So what happens is during your first few years, you rotate through all of these different fields, and you get experience, hands-on experience in all those different fields, because it's so important not to be a specialist necessarily if you want to have a great career in supply chain, but to understand all these different fields. So I would say, really, really, really ask the question, what are the rotational programs? Is it systematic? What's the training and development? That is so critical. I personally recommend anybody, even though that's not the easy way, I will say that, to start in manufacturing, because that's the backbone of supply chain. That's where you gain the deepest insight into how a company works, how you also can get responsibility for a team, sometimes hundreds of people, really quickly. And you're able to make decisions very quickly that are very impactful for a company. So I would say, in manufacturing, that's a great place to start. And then lastly, I would pick a company that has a strong safety culture. So we're proud, for instance, in the cleaning area, where we've made a lot more disinfecting products in our third quarter, 40% more than in the last year, but we had no recordable safety incident, no accident, and that is fantastic. And that's because safety is a core value for us, not just an initiative, but a core value. We keep our employees safe. And a company that puts a lot of effort into keeping employees safe, that tells you a lot about the company. A company that doesn't care as much and is willing to live with accidents, that probably tells you a lot about that company in other fields as well. So really ask questions about the safety record, the safety culture, and the programs that they have in place to promote employee safety.
Wow, that is an incredible statistic. Okay, I'm going to switch over to the audience because we've got some great questions. Some of them are really hard. I'm going to start with the one that I think is the hardest, but really, I don't know how you can choose. But Alec, Cameron, Logan, and Trent at A&M Manufacturing want to know, what is your favorite Clorox product?
Oh, that's a trap question. What should I say? So I will start maybe with my very first product. First love always makes the biggest difference. But I came to Clorox as part of a joint venture that we have with Procter Gamble, my previous company. And the first product I launched about 6 months after I started was Glad Press and Seal. It's a food wrap that is patented and has wholly different properties compared to other food wraps, in that it sticks. So you can literally put it on a glass of orange juice, and you can turn the orange juice over and it will not spill. So, I've spent so much time on that, and so much passion went into that launch, that's always going to be a product that has a special place in my heart. Right now, because it's summer, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area where Clorox is based. I use a lot of Kingsford charcoal. I love cooking. I love making food, and I don't go out to eat right now. So grilling is a passion of mine, and Kingsford is the product to use.
Love it. That's awesome. So Spencer, who's actually a PSO intern at Clorox in Bentonville, and he's a student at the University of Arkansas, wants to know, what's a day in the life look like for you?
The great thing about a day in the life actually is that there are no 2 days that are the same. Every day is different, and that's what I love. And every day I learn something. We talked about a career as a learning journey. I still learn a lot of things, in particular right now, because there's no blueprint for how we as a company or any company can handle this pandemic. So, we use a diverse team to have differences in point of view around the table. Um, and we use our values, do the right thing, as the filter for how we make decisions. So no 2 days are the same, but they always start early. I typically get up at 5:30, and then those of you who are into fitness, I like working out, and these days I work out at home. I have a TRX system at home, which I love, or I run. And then, it's a lot of video calls, a lot of meetings with my own team, with board of directors, with customers right now, quite a bit, with broader industry association, because some of the solutions we're working on have to be worked across the industry. But my day is always full, and if you don't like multitasking, my day is my job is not a good job for you. But I love that I'm busy morning, day, and evening. One thing that's particularly different maybe right now is that it's harder for me to stop in the evening because I work from home, like most people in our company. And then probably like all of you who are working in an at-home environment. So this natural separation between work life and personal life is more difficult right now, because it's so easy for me to step from my office into my kitchen, and then play with my kids, and then go back to work. So that's something where I have to try and make an extra effort to really stop and then switch off, so I can stay fresh emotionally and mentally.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. I'm sure a lot of people watching do.
Yeah.
So we had Arthur, who I don't know where he gets school, but his name's Arthur. He wanted to know about how practical your MBA was to what you do. And we had another student also ask about, just in general, how important is it to get an MBA if you want to take a similar career path to yours?
I mean, MBA is helpful, right? In that it's sort of, it checks a box, even though we also hire undergrads, right? But it's, I would say it teaches you the basics, but most of what I know about business today, I have been taught by the two companies that I've worked for. So I would say, college, as I look back, is more about learning how to learn, and learning how to think. The actual knowledge is helpful, but it's only going to get you this far. Most of what you will learn and apply throughout your career, you're going to learn at the companies and in the jobs that you're in, which, for me, reinforces what I tried to convey earlier, that you really got to choose a company that puts a lot of emphasis on teaching and developing learning programs. It's incredibly important, in particular in your first 5 to 7 years. Don't choose a job, choose development, and choose a company that helps you learn.
I love that. And that hopefully for everyone watching who's right now stressed about finding a job, hopefully that can relieve some stress around finding the perfect job versus really one where you can learn. So we had 3 different students ask questions along the same theme. So just a shout out to Sunita, who's a Columbia University BA in economics, and Brendan, who's a stocking associate at Target, and Hari, who is an intern at T-Mobile. They all want to know, can you tell us a little bit more about how Clorox reacted, or what adjustments you made to production and distribution during this COVID-19, increase in demand, especially during when you might have had a shortage in products from what you might have expected the world would need?
Yeah, and I talked a little bit about this earlier, but we had a shortage of product in many of our categories. And then what we put in place is an allocation process. So we allocate the volumes that we have with amongst the customers that we serve. And, that is a statistical program that's based on consumer demand, based on past shipments, based on where demand shifts. So what we've actually seen is that people start buying at different channels. So more people buy online, for instance, which makes sense, right? Because more people are at home, and especially older people have started to buy more online because they're sort of more concerned to go into a store. So they like products being delivered. And then, we manage this allocation process with our customers. One thing that's made this particularly hard is that we also serve hospitals and the healthcare segment, especially our disinfecting products like bleach and disinfecting wipes, disinfecting sprays. We have a professional business that's about a little less than 10% of our business. And what a decision that we made early that we felt was consistent with our value of do the right thing was that we're going to prioritize caregivers. If they risk their lives to care for people who are sick, we need to make an extra effort to protect them. So we ship more products to hospitals, to acute care facilities, because that is really necessary. And that's also part of why, wipes aren't as frequently visible in store as we would like them to be and as we're working on. But we've really focused on allocating among customers, prioritizing the healthcare sector, and then increase our capacity. So, we've, like I said earlier, increased our capacity by speeding up and simplifying our product lines. But we have also brought on a total of 6 external manufacturers, third parties, who co-pack products for us, which helps us increase our capacity. And then we have made investments which will also further increase our own capacity. So this is a carefully orchestrated process where a lot of people in our sales function, in our marketing function, in our product supply function, in IT are engaged every single day to manage this together. And I meet with my leadership team every single day, 8 o'clock every morning. And we talk through the progress that we're making, whether we're making the right decision, whether we're investing aggressively enough in creating capacity, and importantly, how we can do all of that safely for our employees. So this is something that consumes a lot of our time, as it should.
Awesome. I already loved Clorox, but hearing what you just said about the healthcare workers just makes me love it even more. So thank you for doing that. Okay, so back to kind of career advice you've got. A student at Seton Hall who's interested in working in a country that's not their home country wants to know what advice you have for people who are thinking about working abroad, whether it be in the US and they're not from the US or in another country. What resources do you use and how do you adjust to foreign work cultures?
Yeah. So I think a great way, which was my way, is to start in the US and learn a company and how it works in the US. Also show them what you can do in the US. And then after a few years, move abroad. Because, too much change in life. So if you're new in your career, new to a company, new in a country, that's a lot of change. And for a lot of people, that's actually too much change. So it's helpful if you can reduce the variables of change. And one of them is, of course, if you already know the company, if you already know your job, and then, feel confident in what you do, and then bring that to a new country. So I did that. And I originally just wanted to move abroad for 2-3 years. And I've lived abroad now for almost exactly 25 years. So, be open-minded, that it can really change your life. I've loved living abroad and I still do. But, doing it a little later with a few years, I had about 5 years of work experience before I moved abroad can be really, really, really important. And then how do you adapt? For me, it changed me as a person. I really became a different person. So you've got to just, you said this earlier, Liz, you got to enjoy, you got to, make friends with people from that country and live the life that people live there and travel, and, realize that there's no better or worse. A lot of people I know go to a different country and they say, oh, but this isn't as good as that, or, sort of comparing and seeing the world through a better or worse lens. The beautiful thing about our world is that it shouldn't be about better or worse. It's about being different, and it's about celebrating that different is good. So A meal might taste different than you're used to at home, but that doesn't mean it has to be worse. It can be great, it's just different, you know? And that's a really great mindset. If you can just be open-minded and celebrate the differences and appreciate the world that way versus comparing to what you're used to, yeah? But it will change you automatically. So the people who've done that, everybody who I know, also Clorox people, who we send abroad at times, they love living abroad. It's changed them. And, you know, they haven't just used this as a professional experience to get ahead, but they have seen this as life, you know. So you live in a country for a while, and that's what you do. And if you do that, I think you'll have a very positive experience, and I think it will change and improve your abilities to be a great leader in business. But it'll also, I think, make people more tolerant, more understanding, more appreciative of the differences, and importantly, realize that everybody around the world just wants to be happy and wants to thrive and wants to have a good life for themselves and for their family, no matter what color, no matter where they live, no matter where they are on the political spectrum. We all just want happiness and joy. And living abroad opens people's eyes to that quite a bit.
Awesome. Well, speaking of getting a range of experiences, Alina, who's a University of Iowa student and an intern at Unilever, wants to hear more about your transition from P&G to Clorox and how working at a company that might be considered competitive has changed or shaped or impacted your, your experience and your journey with Clorox.
Yeah. The two things that are similar about P&G and Clorox are both values-based companies, and they both make decisions based on data and processes. So, the transition wasn't a day and night transition. So it was one that really helped. But the big difference between the two companies is that Clorox is a little smaller. We have about 9,000 employees. We're about $6.5 billion in sales, and P&G is many times bigger. So people had more freedom in a company like Clorox. So I felt, and this is in no way disrespectful to my old company, and I very much loved working with them, but I felt a little bit like a hamster out of the cage. So I had more freedom to make decisions. I knew more people. People were more in the foreground. I had more freedom to influence important things and to do what I thought was right. All, however, in a construct of process and capabilities, and it wasn't sort of like a dramatic change. But for me, I really enjoyed having more freedom and the culture at Clorox. What's really important, I think, both if you change companies or if you, to the previous question, get into a new country, though, is that you're willing to adapt. So what was beautiful about my change was that I didn't have to change who I was. I was able to be completely myself because the company valued who I am. But you've got to be willing to realize that every country, every company is different, and you have to adapt the leadership style. P&G, for instance, was a lot more about writing memos, and Clorox is a lot more about rolling up your sleeves and being visible, and bringing out the passion in people, which you do through talking to people in teams. So the style in a company is never the same between two companies, and you've got to be willing to adjust your own style. I became a different leader with Clorox for sure, and I was able to really pay attention, to really listen to how a company works, to make connections and build relationships, and to adjust myself, realizing that there's certain things I can learn from this company that will make me better. So a good dose of humility, a good dose of you know, asking yourself what you can do better, what you can learn from others, and maintaining this learning mentality as you switch companies. It's really a good thing to do as you switch from one company to another.
Awesome. So then dovetailing off of that, speaking of kind of looking at yourself and where you want to grow, Cynthia from the University of Maryland wants to know, how did you know you were ready to assume your role as the CEO of Clorox?
So the interesting thing was, so before I was the CEO, I was chief operating officer of our company. We had two of us, and if the company did well, we knew that one of us would get the job. So I only knew that I would be a CEO of Clorox the moment they told me.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't think you ever know that you're ready. I mean, the great thing is that I had a lot of coaching, a lot of development. So succession planning in Clorox for any job is a really long-term event, and we have quarterly development discussions with our employees, between employee and manager, all the time, where we talk about, what do I want to achieve in my career, and where my manager would tell me, what skills and experiences would help me there, feedback, those kinds of things happen once every quarter. That's really helpful. So these things never come out of the blue, but I didn't necessarily think about, I must be a CEO. In fact, I wasn't even sure I would get the job. I personally thought that my co-CEO would get it, and but that was fine. I knew I would. I had lots of ideas of what I could do and where I could apply my learning, and I would have been happy doing something else too. But you never really know. But you trust your intuition. You trust who you are. I decided I'm going to be myself. I'm going to do this to the best of my knowledge. I'm going to assemble the best team I can. A team who always keep me honest. Team members who are different from who I am, which is incredibly important. I'm going to trust that what I've learned and what I've been taught is going to be good. And then I'm going to realize, I told my board at the time, that I'm not going to be perfect. And that it's not my goal to be perfect. I want to be authentic instead. I want to be a human being instead, because if I am, everybody else will have the courage to be too. And that proved to be really true. Realize you're not perfect. Realize you can still learn. Realize that listening to others is important. And I'm still not perfect. I'm still hopefully human and authentic, but get a little bit better every single day.
So that advice you just gave, or your personal experience, is clearly great advice for anyone interning or new grad at a company. But we've gotten a bunch of questions from several of you, so it's too many to name. Just asking, how can someone stand out in an internship or as a recent grad enough so that maybe even you take notice, even though you've got 9,000 people reporting somehow into you?
Yeah.
How can you stand out?
Yeah, through ideas. It's that simple. If you think about, so I'm a marketer at heart, right? So I still think a little bit like a marketer. So if you're an intern, right, you see a lot of, I have participated in events with our interns and know how smart they are, and we've had a really passionate and lively dialogue together. But it's ideas that make people take notice. So if you're an intern, you see a lot about a company. Take note of what you're seeing. Take note of what the company may need. Take note of what the problems are that the company is trying to solve. And then turn those observations into insights and think about, well, what is it that might help? What is it that I know that could be good for this company? And then share those ideas. Yeah, I think that's the best way. At Clorox, we always say that ideas need to come from the lunchroom, not the boardroom. And ideas on just about anything at our company come from just about anywhere, anybody. Great ideas travel. So if you want others to notice you, think about what a relevant idea might be, do some research, observe, talk to people around you if you're an intern or if you're already working for a company, and then share ideas. Works like magic.
Awesome. Speaking of cool ideas, Blythe, who's actually a Clorox intern this summer and goes to the University of Virginia, wants to know about your thought process behind partnering with companies like United, Uber, and AMC Theaters. They said, I assume a lot of companies were interested in building ties with Clorox. So how did you guys even pick and choose which ones to work with?
Yeah, so oftentimes they chose us because we have the most trusted cleaning and disinfecting brand in the United States. We also have professional products, and we have know-how from our business that we have with hospitals and acute care facilities on cleaning routines. You know, what is a cleaning and disinfecting routine? How often? What kinds of products? What's the protocol? You know, that helps keep as many people safe as possible. So we built capabilities beyond products. But, you know, fundamentally, we understood that there's going to be a number of industries out of home. We partner with United Airlines, with Uber Technologies, with AMC Theaters as they are trying to get people into theaters. And we have many conversations with other companies where the problem they have is, how do I get people out to my facilities, whether it's a hotel or, you know, an airplane? How do I keep them safe factually, but also how do I make them feel safe emotionally? And that's where those partnerships all come in. And we have a dedicated team that works on partnerships around products, around marketing, around cleaning and disinfecting protocols. And it's just one way of how we can make a difference to our communities.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna do, we'll do the last three kind of quickly. And so I apologize that we're not getting to the many, many dozens of others of you who submitted amazing questions. But Natalie, who's a double major in advertising and psychology at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, wants to know what you think will be the biggest change in CPG and CPG marketing within the next 5 to 10 years.
The biggest change is a change that's already been undergoing for a while. It's the shift towards digital. You know, this year it's 10% of our sales. Last year was 8% of our sales, but it's growing rapidly. More people are discovering digital, buying online, and that shift will accelerate dramatically. And it has pretty profound impact on, for instance, our retail industry, in how we market. Clorox actually, I think, is the only major CPG company that spends the majority of our advertising dollars online. About 60% of our advertising dollars go online already. So how we market, how we sell, how we innovate, how we manufacture, how we do work is going to change with help from technology, which is why, you know, we really are looking for people always who are more used to technology, because it's harder for me in my generation to invent what working in the future will look like. It's easier for somebody who graduates from college because you guys think differently. And that's why it's so important for companies like us to keep hiring, bring in new employees, bring in fresh perspective, because the digital transformation of our company and how we work and how we go to market is a strategic priority for us, and we need people who help us with that.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, two more questions. Let's go with, what would you, so Candace, who's a Purdue University Northwest student, said they really liked your advice for supply chain majors and marketing majors. What recommendations do you have for students wanting to work in research and development within a CPG company?
You got to be an engineer. Not necessarily chemical engineer for us, of course that helps, but engineering helps. So we invest a lot in STEM research and in facilities and in talents, because, you know, this country needs more STEM students and graduates. We're going to be much better off. But you know, there's a lot of need for engineers. So I would say if you're a talented engineer and want to work in R&D, it's a great time, especially also for women. We have a lot of women engineers who love working for our company and in a field that touches a lot of people's lives. But I would say if you have passion in R&D, you should have no problem finding a great job, because the country as a whole and our industry also, we need more people who are passionate about R&D and want to work in that field.
Awesome. Okay, the last question, and again, to everyone who has submitted all these questions that we can't get to, I am so sorry. But the last question that I'll be calling out is from Guadalupe, who works at the Home Depot company. And they want to know which books have had the most impact on your personal professional development, or which books do you recommend for students interested in, potentially pursuing a career in CPG. And specifically, they called out that they like your books and your background.
Oh yeah. I don't know if you can decipher what they are. But on my personal life, a book that I read that was really profoundly helpful to me is a book called Transcend. This book, it's called 9 Steps to Living Well Forever. And, it essentially has a lot of amazing insights on personal health and wellness. Clorox is a health and wellness company, and I personally spend a lot of time and am greatly interested in health and wellness, what you eat, what you live. And this book I read about 8 years ago, but I always keep it close by because it's been really transformational for me. In terms of professionally, a book that might be really great for you all at your stage in life is a book from Clayton Christensen. Clayton Christensen was a Harvard business school professor who recently passed away from cancer, unfortunately. But he wrote a number of really amazing books. And one of his books, the title is something like How to Live a Productive Life. Let me see if I can do this in a moment. I want to give it to you precisely. How Will You Measure Your Life is the title of the book. And that's all I'm going to say, because the book is precisely about that. How do you know that you live a productive life? What makes a good life? What decisions should you take early on in life, later in life? And it's not a book that's based on his own opinion, but it's actually based on real data and real insights. And it's fantastic. And I wish I had that book 30 years ago or 25 years ago. So that's the one book I would recommend to everybody. Clayton Christensen, How Will You Measure Your Life?
Awesome. I'm going to buy it right after this for myself. Thank you for those recommendations. Great. Well, we are up for time. I hope everyone who joined us for lunch, or if you're on the West Coast for breakfast, that you enjoyed this as much as I did. Benno, I learned so much today, not only about CPG, but about Clorox, about just career advice. And if I'm going to take it from someone, you're definitely one of the people I'm going to listen to because your career has been remarkable. So thank you so much again for everything your team has been doing, you've been doing to keep us all safe and to create such an inclusive and diverse environment. Again, a shout out to everyone. If you are interested in a role at Clorox, they are hiring. So check out that link that we had posted in the chat. If you didn't get a chance to check it out quickly enough or catch the link, you can log into WayUp and find the Clorox profile. But Benno, again, thank you so much. Do you tweet a lot? Is there any way that maybe everyone can follow you on social media, or should they just follow the Clorox company Twitter?
I do not tweet at all, but LinkedIn is the best way how you can follow me if you want to. You can also connect with me. I'm selective. Well, first of all, I want to make sure you're a real person. And I do enjoy connecting on LinkedIn as part of a community, but not to be sold on new products, so that's how I filter. But LinkedIn is the best way.
Amazing. Great. Well, follow Benno on LinkedIn. And Benno, again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. This was awesome. So thank you.
Thanks for having me, Liz. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Stay healthy and safe. Take care.